Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Idiots in the Wild. First up we have, this is an RPG horror story. Sandbox should not mean there are no plot hooks, opportunities, or points or persons of interest. By Earth Seraph Edna. I run and play all of my games via pure text and image links. Sometimes these are synchronous, live text. At other times they are play-by-post. I have run and finished several play-by-post adventures in a compact time frame. Example, just under a week for a core rule book starter adventure, by consistently keeping things moving. I often join play-by-post games that recruit online. There are often rifts in expectations. Across the past several months, one recurring issue I have seen crop up 3 times is the sandbox plus play-by-post plus nothing to actually do phenomenon. I am sure that not all sandbox play-by-post GMs are like this, but it feels like a non-negotiable number of GMs start up a sandbox play-by-post because they want to put in the least effort possible. These 3 games played out exactly the same way. The GM starts off the PCs in an uneventful location, like some generic town, describing it non-committally. The players and their PCs, including me and my own character, search around for plot hooks, opportunities, and points or persons of interest. Job boards, reports of monsters or criminals, rumors of treasure or strange activities. Word of what lies in a certain direction away from town, chances to fulfill some backstory-related goal, and so on. The GM tells the players and the PCs that they turn up nothing. The game fizzles out after a while because there is nothing to do but aimlessly wonder, why though? What was the GM expecting? Was the GM thinking that the players and their PCs would completely by themselves kick off some epic and exciting sequence of events, even with nothing of interest to actually work off? 2 of the aforementioned games indeed petered out. One, which started last March, is still going, really. It is a superhero game and we have lost players. Superpowers are new in the setting, and yet the GM has been having NPCs act unimpressed or skeptical about our powers. Only now, 3 months later, have we finally managed to find an antagonist with superpowers to confront. What do you think? I think they're trying to go for like a real-world type of immersion. And failing dramatically because, let's be honest, if we wanted the real world, we'd go out in it. I was out in it today. It was warm, then it was rainy, but I did achieve food and snacks. Let me expound on the superhero game example. We began last March and have lost players since. The GM starts our characters in a tech expo, a mundane tech expo, nothing super. We search around for any strange activity or opportunities and turn up nothing. We try to impress people with our superpowers, but our efforts are brushed off or disbelieved. Despite superpowers being a new phenomenon in this setting, honestly, is it any wonder why some PCs flip out and start acting like chaotic, violent murder hobos for no reason? We finally find some scientist giving a speech. We crash the speech with our superpowers. The scientist takes us back to his lab for testing. However, it is a mundane scientist and a mundane laboratory, and the GM has his role play out the most banal, uneventful tests possible. At one point, the GM asks me to make a roll to see if my speedster character can successfully wave their hand really fast. Should have stuck it through his chest. Rolling to see if something bad happens, something catches fire, being on the spot makes you nervous, and you can't go super fast, or you open a rift in space-time. Lots of things can happen when showing off something at high speeds. I saw it as an opportunity to put some drama and unpredictability into the situation. Everyone has already seen you move quickly so far. I tell the GM that this seems too random and punitive, and that a roll would be too arbitrary. The GM goes along with it, thankfully. The prosaic tests continue, then conclude. Eventually, we are let back out into the city with no real plot hooks. We resume our attempts at finding opportunities. At last, after 3 real-time months, we find our first supervillain of sorts. He is a mentally unwell, telekinetic tweaker in an alley. He rambles out violent intentions while menacingly displaying his destructive powers. It is a start, at least? I do not know. Should it really have taken 3 real-time months to reach this point? How would you have handled this game setup? I will quote a play-by-post sandbox GM on this subject. I love that I seem to be more an oracle than a GM here. Y'all are very self-sufficient. It is incredible to see. Yes, this GM was boasting that they were doing nothing. Alrighty, story number 2 is a server life story. Aliens/Body Snatchers by Super Salad or Else. Have you ever served space aliens wearing human skin? Well, yes, I have. I used to work at a busy pizza spot. You could walk up to the counter and order pizza, or you could seat yourself and we'd come to you. We also had an entirely separate dinner menu, just to keep things nice and complicated. But here we are, first and foremost, a pizza place on this side. The other side is the main restaurant. They both share a menu, again to keep things nice and complicated. It's the 9th hour of my weekly 12-hour shift, and this couple lumbers in. They look lost. They found the pizza menu. They are near the counter. I help the customer before them, taking a moment to assure them that I'll be available shortly. To-go orders are piling up. I need to pour beer, etc. They flip the menu end over end, as if the sheet of paper might have some undiscovered third face. I return to the counter and ask if they'd like to be seated or if they're doing a to-go order. What do you recommend? She asks guardedly. Her froggy husband's vacant stare peers over her shoulder. I rattle off a few crowd pleasers. She doesn't seem convinced. We aren't really cheese people. Get them the fuck out. Sorry. I don't want to be lactose intolerant. Well, ain't that wild? You walked into a pizza place. I offer up our main menu and point out a few options that don't have cheese. She hems and haws while her husband hovers. I don't think he's blinked, let alone said a single word. I help another customer. I greet a table. I come back. She's still at the counter. Have you decided? I ask, eager to stop these two from draining all the energy from the room. We want pizza, but we don't want cheese. Well, you could have made this dumb idea anyone else's fucking problem, but here we are. I say in my head before offering a marinara pizza, which is listed on the menu she's been holding, and distinctly lacks cheese. After a long pause, and what I assume to be either 1 million thoughts rattling behind her eyes, or not a single thought at all, she accepts. I ring in the marinara pizza. Tell them it will be out 30 to 40 minutes. We were slammed. I guide them to a table, pull out the chairs, offer napkins, silverware, and a pizza stand. Y'all, they sit down. The husband unfurls his napkin, unfolds it to the full extension of what a paper napkin can stretch to be. Then he tucks it in his shirt. Then they stare at each other for 40 minutes until the pizza arrives. They must be very, very comfortable with each other. Honestly, kind of jealous. I'd love for the weirdness to continue, but it just fizzled out after that. I was glad when they paid and left. They ate most of the pizza and said it was good when I checked a few times for refills. I don't know. Do any of you have close encounters of the third kind stories, interactions with people who slid out of a test tube a few hours before sitting in your section? You know what? At least they ordered and ate and didn't complain. That's a silver lining, isn't it? Although, and while I do understand there is such a thing as lactose-free cheese, such a thing as vegan pizza and all that, it does seem a bit unusual to go into a regular pizza place and ask for a pizza. Cross-contamination, if nothing else. Story number 3 is Fake Feather Allergy by Frogpock Champ 420. This is a Tales from the Front Desk. So I've only worked front desk at a hotel for about a year. This happened around my 3rd week on the job, and probably only the 2nd time I was left to man the desk all alone. My supervisor, who was working the desk with me that evening, had gone on break because it had been quiet. Someone called down from their room about a feather allergy. She was really frustrated, as she had apparently informed us of her allergy before checking in. I checked her in. There was no mention of it. Of course, I apologized for the inconvenience and explained that I will send housekeeping up as soon as possible to replace the duvet. Well, a magical line appears of people who suddenly need to check in, but I made a note of the issue and texted housekeeping. Not even 5 minutes had gone by when the lady appears at the front desk and throws the duvet over at me, yelling about how incompetent you people are. I said I was allergic to feathers. This could have killed me. Madam, we can only hope. Yes, the feather duvet you just carried down from the 3rd floor and threw over the desk was going to kill you. As this is happening, I have a line of people waiting to be checked in. I just ignore the absolutely insane thing. Should have kicked her out with actual kicking. I just ignore the absolutely insane thing she has done, apologize again, and ask her to take a seat as my supervisor will return shortly. I apologize to the guest I was checking in, move the toxic feather duvet to the back office, and then deal with the rest of the line. Kudos to the bar manager who witnessed what happened and pulled my supervisor off his break. Colleagues that support you, that's good. I'm so lucky that management is so good where I work because my supervisor is an absolute star. I explained what happened. He called the woman over, explained to her that her behavior is unacceptable. She argues and he straight up says, "You can't be that allergic if you could carry it down and throw it over the desk." We offer to fix the issue. She claims we are bullying her, so he offers to cancel her reservation with no penalty. She left and our manager asked for the gossip the next day. So of course I told her, and she told me I have better temperament than her, because if a guest threw something at her, they would be packing right away. Yep. It was my first incident, and was not my last. I'm away at college at the moment, but returning to work there in the summer, and I low-key cannot wait to hear the top 10 craziest things that happened while I was gone. Alright, story number 4. Player tries to force my character into bed, dies, devotes his next character to revenge. By Director Sin. I've seen a few D&D horror stories on YouTube. Hi. And wanted to contribute my own from a few years back. For context, in my senior year of college, I decided to join a D&D club out of pure curiosity, and found a campaign that went amazingly. We were a very chaotic group of writers that loved role-playing, and the DM was cool with us completely derailing his plans and letting us do stupid ideas just for the rule of fun. We had even turned some of the sessions into short stories. The friends I made in that group stuck around for years, and it was a great time overall. I'm giving this context to show that I was a sweet summer child who thought every D&D player was the best person ever and could do no wrong. The college campaign ended, and after I moved to a new city, I was eager to find a new group and make new friends and have another great experience. And boy oh boy was I not prepared in the slightest for what I would find. After searching around on the internet, I found this group that met at a local game store. They had a heavily homebrewed Curse of Strahd game in progress, and were looking for more players. I reached out, and the DM was cool with me joining. The moment I got there, I saw all kinds of warning signs my naive little mind was too innocent to recognize. First of all, there were 8 players at this campaign. All of them were guys. I was hoping for a smaller group, but the DM seemed nice at first, and I missed playing D&D by this point, so I wanted to give them a chance. Half of them were constantly on their phones unless combat was happening anyway. I rolled up with a multi-classed rogue and a genie warlock. Her story is that she grew up dirt poor, so she was a bit of a kleptomaniac, and liked causing pranks and mischief to keep her mind off dark things. My roguelock, Sylvia, was introduced by the DM as finding herself lost in the Svalak woods when running into the party while they're camping. The moment I started RPing with anyone who would bother, the guy sitting next to me, Carl, immediately started thirsting for my character. Should have tried water, it's much better for dehydration. He was playing this edgy outcast lone wolf monk, and because he was too trusting, I assumed the thirsting was just him acting in character. Since I had joined in the middle of a game, his monk was loaded with money. I'm talking several thousand gold pieces. As the party was traveling, he began showering Sylvia with free money, once he figured out she likes gold. But by the time we got to town, Carl became more and more demanding that I have Sylvia reward his monk for giving him so much. At the time I was horribly conflict avoidant, and I didn't want to upset him, so I kept awkwardly laughing it off and giving responses along the lines of, no, maybe later. The rest of the party did nothing to intervene in this dynamic. The closest thing was that there was another guy, Adam, who got extremely upset that my brand new character was getting so much money for doing nothing, and so he started doing whatever he could to butt Sylvia and I out of the game. Sylvia wanted to climb a statue to get a better view of the area. Adam tried to shut it down and ask the DM if he can roll to kick Sylvia. Sylvia wanted to talk to an NPC. Adam aggressively talked over me the moment the conversation started going anywhere. Even then, I stuck with it in hopes that things would get better. Spoiler alert, they didn't. Fast forward a few sessions, we needed to sneak into a camp full of guards. In my mind, this was Sylvia's moment to shine. She has expertise in health, an imp familiar that can turn invisible, and a cursed amulet she can vanish into like a genie's bottle. I was thinking she would do something useful for the party, and then everyone would be nicer to me. But as I was describing my plan, Carl insisted that his monk should come along too, and I'm like, okay, fine, monks are stealthy too. Everything was going great at first. Sylvia and the monk passed their stealth checks, and snuck past some guards into a tent with cots, crates, weapon racks, the usual. The DM asked what we wanted to do next, and then, with a leering smirk on his face, Carl said, "I'm going to grab Sylvia and force her onto the cot." Yes, because women love it when you force them to do things, you little weasel. At first, I thought he was joking and laughed it off like, "Ha, no." Then tried to change the subject by asking to do a perception check, but Carl wouldn't have it. He said I should just let it happen. Yep, probably not the first time he said that, and no one, not the DM nor any of the players stopped the game, expressed any discomfort or seemed to think this was an issue at all. I was too much of a pushover to stop the game, but I wasn't going to go along with this. I had Sylvia vanish into her cursed amulet, and then Carl started yelling at me to make her come out, or that he was going to break the amulet. The DM decided that Carl was saying this in character, so all the guards in the camp woke up and attacked. Sylvia's imp turned invisible and escaped with her amulet, but Carl's monk got surrounded and killed. Yay! Carl tried to act like the whole thing was no big deal, but everyone could tell he was pissed. The DM let him make a new character and proceeded to roll up with an Oath of Vengeance paladin. Not only that, but I watched him cheat on the stat rolls. He'd subtly flick the dice towards a high number, and I was too cowardly to snitch to the DM. Carl then made his paladin's entire personality about bringing justice to thieves and lawbreakers. Yep, he made an entire character to try to get revenge on Sylvia. I was in the campaign for 2 or 3 more sessions, and the whole time Carl tried his absolute hardest to kill Sylvia. If Sylvia tried to pick a lock, or sassed a town guard, or tried to climb someone's roof, he would claim she was breaking the law and immediately roll to attack, only to be shut down by the DM. Well, at least the DM was doing that much. Adam joined in too, and the DM always found some way to thwart their attempts to hurt Sylvia. You might think he was just doing his job, but he was also nicer to me than everyone else. He always made sure Sylvia got more loot than the other players, and went out of his way not to target her in combat. He also found ways to make her look cool at the expense of Adam and Carl's characters. I expect he was probably tired of dealing with them long before you got there. So this was a good chance for him to do a little spanking, even when Carl cheated on his roles. This provoked constant arguments with Carl and Adam, which slowed the pace of the game down to a crawl. I thought the DM was just looking out for me, but then he started getting weird. First it was standard slightly creepy comments about Sylvia that could maybe be taken as compliments. Then out of nowhere he started sending me AI-generated art of busty, scantily clad elven women, claiming it was Sylvia. Now, Sylvia is a petite and short human with an oversized fancy coat. But when I told him she doesn't look like that, he told me that she does, despite the fact that, she's my character. The last straw of all things was a railroading attempt gone wrong. It was the end of the session, and there was an uncountable horde of zombies surrounding us, and the only way we could escape was going into a sketchy portal. Sylvia didn't trust the portal, so she was going to do her trusty vanish into her amulet and have her imp fly away with the trick. But then the DM decided not only was he not going to allow this, he was going to ban Pact of the Chain on the spot. His reasoning was that he let me have a pet that I shouldn't have been allowed to have anyway, and I was somehow sabotaging the story for everyone else. That's the moment when I finally decided I had enough and dropped the campaign. DM flipped his script, tried to get me to come back, saying I should give him a chance. He had one, and the portal was important to the story. But I decided I didn't feel like listening to the arguments and getting picked on by Carl and Adam. Since then I've learned a lot, grown a spine, and recently started my own Curse of Strahd campaign. I'm still getting better as far as DMing goes, but I can confidently say it's an improvement over what went down at that game store. Well, you're probably not trying to shag anyone that doesn't want it, so that's a good thing right away. And the fifth and final story today is Dear Timmy, this is a Kevin story, by Guillotine Guru. So I'm going on a walk in my neighborhood, and suddenly I stumble across a baby raccoon we'll call Timmy. Then 3 of Timmy's dear little siblings run up, and they're all very adorable with no mother in sight. I stand still as these baby raccoons slowly approach me. They get roughly 6 to 8 feet away before they stop, and that is a reasonable distance between you and animals known for carrying rabies. I take a few pictures because they are really cute baby raccoons, as any sensible person would do from a reasonable distance. Enter Kavina. So I'm standing there, across the street, when a middle-aged blonde woman in a white pickup truck quickly and crookedly parks in a yard that I can only assume wasn't hers. And I don't mean half on the road. I mean the front half of the truck was in the grass while the back half was still on the street. She then proceeds to speedwalk across the street past where I'm standing toward the raccoons. They very quickly bolt up a tree because someone is moving toward them fairly fast. They can sense the evil. Now Timmy, as I mentioned at the very beginning, was the first raccoon I saw, and was a little distance away from the rest of the group. In the pictures I took, Timmy was kind of standing apart from the others, so when they bolted for the tree, Timmy was the last one to get there. Oh, come on, buddy, you can do it. Our dear Kavina was on the phone with someone, mumbling things like, "Someone told me about them," and, "Oh, they're so cute." At this point, little Timmy is still only about 3 feet up the tree. Come on, Timmy. I snap a few more pictures, and as I turn around to continue my walk, I catch out of the corner of my eye that she's reaching to pet the raccoon. Don't touch her, Timmy, you never know what diseases she's riddled with. I was a little too dumbfounded to say anything because how unbelievably stupid is it to try to pet a wild raccoon? Before I could even turn around or open my mouth, I heard a shriek. I looked back just in time to see little Timmy on the ground, and Kavina... Good boy, Timmy. Kavina clutching her hand as she speedwalked back to her truck, having apparently been bitten by dear Timmy. This left me completely dumbfounded as to how a fully grown adult had somehow made it through life without learning don't pet wild raccoons. I hope Timmy was okay and made a full recovery. Okay, and that brings us to the end of today's video. Big thanks to everyone who allowed me to use their stories in this video. If you'd like to support the channel, you can sign up for my Patreon page, which is linked in the description. $1 or more a month gets you early access to all the videos at once on Monday. There's also a link to my merchandise store on Teespring, as well as my Discord server, my Threads account, and my email, which is kingofthecities@gmail.com, if you need to contact me. I'm melting. I'm going to head downstairs, turn on the fan, cool off, and do some editing. Thankfully, I got a good chunk of it done yesterday, so shouldn't take me too long, actually. So until next time, thank you very much for watching, and take very good care of yourselves. Bye-bye.